Yes, good afternoon to those of you who are joining us from India and ASEAN countries, and a very good morning to those of you who are joining us from Europe. My name is Samrat Kumar. I am the country coordinator of EURAXES in India. This webinar today is part of a global webinar series organized by the European Research Council in partnership with EURAXES worldwide. We're really happy to see so many of you joining, which proves how appealing the ERC grant schemes are to international top researchers from India, ASEAN, and from other parts of the world. Now it gives me immense pleasure to welcome our guest speakers today. I will start with Ms. Tanja Friedrichs, who is the Research and Innovation Counselor at the EU delegation in India. A very warm welcome to you, Tanja. Also, I would like to welcome Ms. Isabella Pirolo, who is the International Relations Officer at the EU delegation, Singapore. Isabella, welcome. We also have Dr. Vivek Dham, who is a Senior Advisor at the Research Innovation section at the EU delegation in India. Welcome, Vivek, to you. And perfect timing, we have Mr. Benjamin Pelletier, Scientific Officer at the European Research Council. So great to have you with us, Benjamin. And next to him is his colleague, Davide Innocenti, also working as a Scientific Officer at the European Research Council. And finally, a very warm welcome to Radha Boya, our ERC grantee, and she is at the Royal Society University Research Fellow at the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Manchester University in the UK. Welcome to all of you. And of course, I'm very happy to have two colleagues from the EU delegation, three of them, and who have been working very closely with the European Research Council in helping into promoting and creating awareness about these fantastic world-class grants. And it gives me immense pleasure now to ask Tanja Friedrichs from the EU delegation in India to give the opening remarks to our audience, and particularly to our audience here in India.
Thank you very much, Samrat, and dear colleagues from other EU delegations and from Brussels. It's really very much welcomed that we together do this information session around the globe, because what is most important is that we continue to create awareness about the importance of cooperation on research and innovation between Europe and India and Asia, and also within that cooperation or different instruments. I am always very keen and on helping to promote the European Research Council, because I have seen the existence. I was at the very beginning of the discussions why we should have a European Research Council, and that sounded like all special and secret in the beginning, and now more than 20 years later, I do understand so well why some eminent scientist organizations insisted so much that we would have such a possibility of funding research for the best researchers and based on scientific excellence only. So it is really a unique program. We're very pleased and honored that we can present it to you. It's also very unique because it is really open to the world, no restrictions. We want the possibility of the best scientists with the best minds, the curiosity driven, to come to Europe and to pitch for their ideas. So take advantage of that session, take advantage of listening carefully to how it works. Take your chance to have it, because if you have it, I'm sure that the testimony will testify that it is really fantastic. It's fantastic to have that possibility in an environment of freedom to work with best researchers from around the world. So thank you so much that you are organizing this. And of course, a special word for among the many attendees for the Indian scientists. You are doing already very well if we compare with other third countries, but we should never rest on our laurels. So please continue to apply a lot. It's far from being a lottery. So I'm not saying apply for the sake of applying it, but apply because if you want to develop your idea, you are curiosity driven, really it is worth working on the preparation of such a proposal and then develop it together with European scientists and institutes in Europe. Best of luck in listening and in preparing, and I want to see many Indians in the selection of proposals the next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya. And I would also like to invite now Isabella Birolo from the EU delegation Singapore to say also some opening remarks to our audience, especially to those from the ASEAN countries. Thank you, Isabella.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And thanks especially also to Tanya to already set the scene and making my job much easier. In fact, I totally agree. I mean, this is an occasion for you participants who are here because you will have the chance to meet researchers, to meet people that want to cooperate with each other. And we've seen also in the past months how important it is and how important it has been, especially with COVID, to keep this community alive. I will not be long. I will just want to pass a couple of messages that I learned in my time here in ASEAN since January 2020. So just before the world closed up. And I've seen that with everything that happened, researchers and scientists were the first ones that understood immediately that the crisis had to be dealt through openness and not by closing or by not communicating. We saw many examples where researchers put together their minds, where they apply even more with more enthusiasm to the opportunities that were offered either by Horizon, but also by ERC and many other research programs around the world. And this was so inspiring for all of us policymakers because we understood that not only the community was very alive, but there was this need also that from our side to match their requests. And this is why I think it's such a positive also sign the fact that ERC itself has an increased budget under the new framework program, Horizon Europe. So this is clearly a sign of the fact that excellence in science and among researchers is something that the EU believes in. I would also like to say a few words about EU and ASEAN specifically, and just to mention the fact that it's very easy for us to cooperate when it comes to research, because among the principles that base our regional organizations there are openness and multilateralism. And this, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is the very the core of research cooperation. And international cooperation is something where we are not only strong believers, but we're also trying to reach out more and more. And as I was mentioned at the beginning, I'm based in Singapore, and I see how the EU and Singapore are engaging in a possible dialogue to step up their cooperation in research. But then this has also been extended to other ASEAN countries, and it was recently announced also and proposed in the Indo-Pacific strategy that we just adopted. Anyhow, I don't think you're here to listen to my words about policy, but just to let you know that this is something where, as Tanya mentioned, we think it will be so useful for you, for everybody who's participating here, but also for us, because we will understand more from you what we can do better, where we can help more. And I'm also hoping to see more and more projects and more research cooperation between the EU, ASEAN, India, all over the world. So a big thank again to EURAXESS for the great job we're doing. Thank you, welcome, and I hope you will enjoy the following hours.
Thank you so much, Isabella, for your warm welcoming words, and also both you and Tanya clearly highlighted that encouraged to see more of cooperation happening between the regions and Europe. So now, before we go to the main presenters, we would like to take a few minutes and to know a bit more about you, our audience here. So please take a few minutes and answer some questions for us, which we will now share with you on the chat link. There's a Mentimeter link. So I kindly ask you to click on that. And in the meantime, I will try to launch this small question session with you. I have to admit that I have actually never done this before, so I hope it works. So please, okay, it's already started. So the first question, I hope you can see my screen. Yeah, can I, Tanya, are you able to see the screen? Yeah,
yes.
okay.
I'm also wondering where I come from.
Yeah, so where do you come from and where are you based? And we see here, of course, we have a very strong representation from the ASEAN countries like Thailand, and we have Indonesia, but with Philippines, but we also see that people are from Iran, Sri Lanka, and of course from different parts of India as well. And we have Sweden here, so we have people from Europe joining us, and France, and that really gives us great immense joy to see that we really have attracted a global audience for this webinar today. So thank you for that. And the next questions we have for you is, who are you? Are you a scientist? Are you a researcher? Are you a student? Or are you working for the government as an official? Or are you just interested in science yourself? And let's see what answers pour in now. Yeah, of course, researcher, postdoc, PhD, lecturer, assistant professor. So of course, all mostly connected to academia. Research administrator are also there. Project scientists, NGO founder, government staff. So we see also a variety of professions from our audience who are today want to listen and know more about the ERC. So I'm very happy to read that also. Yeah, some people are also making it a bit funny for us. That's also nice. Thank you for that. Yeah, okay, let's go to the next question. How familiar are you with the ERC grants? So we would like to know, like, what is your kind of understanding and knowledge about the ERC? So let's see what, okay. So here we see who makes the race. The majority, as it seems, is not familiar with the ERC grants. So that gives a very nice task to our scientific officers in Brussels, to David and Benjamin. So you have to tell our audience more about what the ERC grant schemes are and what's in there for our researchers here in India and the ASEAN. Okay, but we see also that people are very familiar and also some are moderately familiar, but the majority seems not to be so familiar, but that's good for us. Good news. Yeah, lastly, we want to know what would you like to learn from this webinar? Of course, how to apply for a grant. Yeah, opportunities, funding, research, grant fellowship, of course. Yeah, what are the eligibility criteria, mobility, proposals? Yeah, and I think most of this will be covered today in the upcoming presentations by our colleagues from Brussels. Yeah, so it's mostly also how to the grant application, how to apply. And so thank you very much for this. Now I would now just straight make the transition and ask our colleague Benjamin to tell us more about the different grant schemes the ERC has for researchers in India and ASEAN, and also how to apply for those grants. Thank you, David. Sorry, Benjamin.
Thank you, Samrat. Hello, everybody. Greeting from Brussels. I'm very thankful for this opportunity to talk about the wonderful ERC. And I joined Tanya to say that I hope we will have many more people applying from outside Europe, because despite what people may think, we can, and we have many, around 8% of people of our PI, principal investigator, coming from outside Europe. So I'm Benjamin. I am a scientific officer for panel SH1 and SH2, which is political science and law, mainly. Sorry, I have a little issue here. Okay, so the ERC is part of the European Commission and part of the Directorate General Research and Innovation. So we are part of this big institution, but we are a bit separate because we are completely governed by a council of scientists. I will come back to that. Our funding comes from the program that we call Horizon Europe, that is supposed to last for 7 years. And the ERC is part of the first pillar, which is excellent science, and it represents 17% of the budget, so 16 billion for the 7 years of the program. So we are governed by scientists. So the ERC is all about scientists for science, decide by science, run for scientists, and for blue sky research. So you can see the member of our research council. You can see that there's many different disciplines, field of expertise represented from neurobiology to nanotechnologies to economics and so on. We are part of an agency, the European Research Council Executive Agency. We are here to help the Scientific Council and all our panel members and all our principal investigators to do great science. So we exist since 2007. And basically, what we want to do is to support scientists with the topics they found the most important for long-term grants. And what we are looking for is high-risk, high-gain project, something that is at the frontier of what is known right now in any domain, any discipline, on any topic. We have different kinds of grants. We have 5 different kinds of grants. The 3 first one, starting grant, consolidator grant, and advanced grants, are based on since how many years you got your PhD, which means that we cover all. We make people compete based on their level of seniority, their experience. So you will not compete with a Nobel Prize, you will compete with your peers. So starting grant is for people who 2 to 7 years after their PhD. Consolidator grant is 7 to 12 years, and advanced grant is after 12 years with no limit. So you can see that it's quite a big amount. For each of these grants are lasting for 5 years. And for starting grant, it's 1.5 million for 5 years, consolidator 2 million, and advanced grant 2.5 million. So that's quite an amount to be able to finance equipment, your salary, and your team, and your travel, and what is required to do your work. You can also have an extra million, especially if you are coming from outside Europe. You can ask more money to resettle somewhere in Europe. We have 2 other grants. Synergy grants is a bit different. It's wider. I mean, this 10 million, because there's 2 to 4 researchers working together, and for a duration of 6 years. One of these researchers can be based outside the European Union or the associated countries. So this is our biggest grant. The last grant is a proof of concept and is designed to help people who got an ERC grant and have uncover some innovation which can help society or economics. And so we have this extra grant to make a proof of concept so they can try to see if it works or not. So it's like really to apply the fundamental knowledge they discovered. So why it should be interesting for you? Because many people think that it's only for people, for Europeans, but it's not true. What is true is that you will need to spend 50% of your working time in Europe, but you can still keep an affiliation from whatever institution you are in. And you can also have team member based outside Europe, and you can definitely move to Europe with your grants. And also, that's what we call the portability. Once you are in Europe, you are not stuck at one particular institution. You can also change institution within Europe or the associated countries. And as I said already, you can have this 1 million extra to help you to move to Europe. So now some figures just to give you a bit an idea on the big picture. So I will not talk about all this number because I don't want to bother you too much, but you can imagine that since we started in 2007, we have funded 12,000 projects. And in order to do that, we had to ask just the last 6 years, we have to ask 45,000 experts worldwide to review our proposal for us. And 4,000 panel members came here, or now it's online, but work in a panel here to select the best proposal. So this is really a huge work from the scientific community. And yeah, and then the result is that we can report 150,000 publications that was directly linked to ERC funding. And we have a few Nobel Prize that are grantees. And yeah, and what I wanted to add also that may be interesting is that if you look at the evolution of submissions of projects, we are continuously increasing, and the part of the projects that come from outside Europe are also increasing even faster. So now some concrete information if you do want to apply. So each grants have their own temporality, and so you can see the date here. Really advise you if you want to apply to as soon as the call is open, please pre-register, because this is really important, and very often at the end sometimes can happen some technical problem, or so please register as early as possible. So anyway, these data are available on the website, so you can find this public information. So we are organized in different panels, as I said. So I am here on the SH1 and SH2 panel, which is mainly, I'm actually mainly in SH2, which is institution and governance and legal systems. And SH1 is more economics, finance, and management. But you can see that all the fields are represented here. It's just a way to organize our panel. But if you think that your discipline is not written there, it doesn't mean that you cannot submit. You can submit on any topic and on any discipline. And just from this year, we have 2 new panels. So we have the SH7, Human Mobility, Environment, and Space, which used to be part of SH2 and SH3. And we have also Materials Engineering. So that's new panels because we want to cover the field better. And I will explain you why. So later on. So all the process is organized. We are organized in a way that there's 2 steps. There's 2 steps. First, the panel member see only the section 1, so the synopsis and the curriculum vitae. It's what we call part B1. So they only have access to part of the information. And based on that information, they have a panel meeting after they review all the documents. They have a panel meeting to decide which one are rejected and which one go to step 2. The one who are rejected is score B and C. And then the one who are going to step 2 is grade A. Then between step 1 and step 2, we have to hunt for external experts who are really exactly on the field of the proposal. And we ask them, it's a very time-consuming task for us, but it's very important to have the very customized expertise on each proposal. And then the panel member also have access to both B1 and B2, so the really detailed methodology and work plan. And based on that, after they analyze all the info, they have a second step, a panel meeting with interviews. And then again, they score A and B, and we then inform the applicants. So you have to know that our success rate is between 15 to 8%, depending on the number of proposals we got, but normally it's close to 12%. So it's not it's competitive, but well, it's possible to get one. So some ideas that many people have and might be not true. So we do fund what we are looking for blue sky research, as we said, but it doesn't mean that applied research cannot be financed by ERC. We are looking for something creative, original, and excellent. It can be applied to. It includes applied research. So all the budget is distributed. So I'm from the social science domain. And many people say that, yeah, we never give a lot of fund to social sciences and humanities. But in fact, we distribute the fund depending on the number of applicants in each field. So we want to make sure that the success rate is equal in every panel. So every time we have a grant open, a call of proposal opened, we look at, we distribute, all the proposals are distributed among all the descriptors. And then we distribute the budget accordingly. So we have no priorities. The panel descriptor that I just show you, SH2, SH7, or like we have also some keywords. This doesn't represent any priorities or any objective from the ERC. There is none. It's just a way for us to organize the work. It is a scientist, first the one who apply, who propose something, and they propose what they find the most important and the most innovative, and is another scientist who select what they find the most promising research. So we have no priority, and it doesn't mean that it's not useful what is done, because you can see that, for instance, Pfizer vaccine and AstraZeneca are coming from years and years of funding on fundamental science. We later on lead to innovation and vaccine. And at the time they were researching, one is a ERC grantee. At the time that we were funded, we had no idea that there will be such a pandemic. So the fundamental research is really important. But that was okay. So now, two things that also is ill-conceived idea is that people think that, oh, I didn't publish in top 5 of my field, so then I have no reason to apply. This like a lost cause. It's not true. Publication record is not a decisive criteria. We do look at publication and the impact and the content, but we signed the DORA initiative. And so publication record is not the only thing and the things that will disqualify you, not at all. And same thing with the host institution. You think that you will compete with people from Harvard or Cambridge, but it's not a criteria at all. We don't look at that. We just look at excellence. We have two kinds of criteria. One is a research project, and the second one is the excellence of the principal investigator. So the excellence of the research project, it means that what kind of methodology is used? Is it really groundbreaking? Is it really high risk, high gain? What could be the impact of it? So this is, I would say, the most important. And the second one, so the principal investigator, we have to judge like, especially for starting grants, if they are independent of thinking, those people just follow what their PhD director are telling them to search? Do they just co-publish with other people, or are they the first author? And this kind of thing. What kind of work they are doing? What the kind of responsibilities they have? What kind of course they are teaching? What kind of research they already did? What kind of results they already got? So the only and sole criterion, is excellence. That's the only one. All the rest that you can hear is just some rumors, and I will try to look at a few of them. So first, you can apply only when you are already close to Nobel Prize. Not true, completely untrue. That's why we have starting grants, consolidator grants, and advanced grants. So the one close to Nobel Prize will be for advanced grant, and even, I mean, we do have some Nobel Prize applying successfully. We do have Nobel Prize who actually fail to get an ERC grant. And we do have people who were not known and later got a Nobel Prize. So, but considering seniority, so starting grant is for people who just got their PhD 2 years ago, after 2 years ago until 7 years ago. So you can apply and you will compete with people from the same generation. So there's no, you don't need to be a highly accomplished scientist, not at all. Okay, so second rumor, some people think that you have to follow the same line of research and dig in like as much as you can. And so it shows that you are an expert in that particular field. Actually, it's also not true because if you do that, it's likely that your work will be incremental and not groundbreaking. And what we are looking for is something very original, very new. And so most of the time it's a new research line, not an old one. Now, so we have also a lot of feedback concerning that ERC is a private club. Only people who got an ERC grant can get a new one, or the other way around. Oh, they already got a ERC grant, and so then they will never give me another one. So I will not bore you with statistics, but any of these assertions are untrue. We look each proposal in its own merits and individually and in comparison with the other application from the same batch. So it's not considered whether you got or you didn't have an ERC grant. It's not really at all what the panel is looking at, except proof of concept, of course, because this is eligibility criteria. Fourth rumor. So if you have something that is very I would say trendy or potentially very good for society, you have higher chance of getting funded. This is also not true. What I was saying about impact before is more impact on the scientific field. And we hope that there's some positive externality after that, maybe, but this is not what we are looking at when we select projects. I mean, I could have tons of examples of things that would find people will find like useless actually, because we are funding fundamental research. We are not pointing in any direction and looking at Millennium Development Goals. Even though once the projects are funded, maybe many projects are actually useful for society, but it's the other way around. Okay, now. I would like to insist on a few points. If you want to have more chance to be selected, what you need to look at is something really new, really original, and if possible, with many different kind of expertise within the team, or even within your own profile methodology. So we are looking for interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary proposal. We are looking for new research line, emerging fields, and we are looking for new methodology, new approaches. This is what we are looking for. So here I wanted to just pick randomly four projects that we financed, and yeah, I mean there's many other examples, and yeah. So one is the LIDAR initiative is from. You know, it's like a plane with a laser scan from the sky and find some archaeological things that are below vegetation and we cannot access or we cannot see without this. So this was a new technology that we used, and with that we discovered many new Khmer ruins in Cambodia. Another example on another field is the investigation on tropical forest and climate change. So this is a bit more applied, and this was really interdisciplinary, involving sociology, demography, natural sciences, and biology. So ecology is a very interdisciplinary project. Now, cardiovascular health effects of air pollution in Andhra Pradesh. So I try to pick, as you can imagine, a project about India. So you can see we are not focused on Europe at all. We have research that covers the world, entire world, because what is important is not really the place, is the research itself. And the last example is novel algorithmic techniques through the lens of combinatorics. So this one I will not elaborate because I'm too far from my field, and I would be afraid to say something untrue. Okay, now if you need more information, we have some videos made by our colleagues that guide people how to actually apply with many tricks and tips. Very practical one, so you can go on your YouTube channel and watch it. It will take like about an hour because there's quite a few videos. But if you want to apply, I definitely advise you to go there. And also you can always go back to our website. There's many useful information there. You have some national contact points that cover the world. And so these are the main resource of information. And then we have our portal with all the information concerning all the tender of European Union and not only the research one. And thank you for your attention. And I guess I will give back the floor to Samrat, I guess.
Yes, Benjamin, thank you so much for this very comprehensive overview about the different ERC grant schemes. And also what I really liked was how you tackled those rumors, which often people hear about the ERC, and you kind of, demystified them very well. And I also can only encourage all of you to watch those ERC classes. These are excellent videos, tutorials made by our ERC colleagues on how to apply, and really giving you a very good insight and good hints if you are interested to apply for the ERC. So thanks again, Benjamin, and you will stay with us. We will have also a Q&A session with you. And before that, I'm very happy to welcome again our ERC grantee, Radha Boya, as I said, at Manchester University. And Radha will give us now, her experience as an ERC grantee, and also maybe some tips for potential future applicants. Thank you, Radha. The mic is yours.
Thank you, Samrat, for a kind introduction. And it's a pleasure to be able to interact with you all from all over the world. Hello to everyone. So I'll start without further ado. Hope you're able to see my slides and able to hear me clearly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
So firstly, about myself, as just Samrat introduced, basically I'm working in University of Manchester. I work on 2D material-based capillaries. So something I nickname as the 2D empty space. So this is a 1 atom thin capillary, which is the basis of the work that I have proposed for ERC grant. So this is my wonderful team, which was enabled by ERC grant. So this is the latest picture after all the restrictions were lifted. So this is my journey. So I have done all my education until PhD in India. So I graduated in 2012. So following that, I went to US for a brief postdoc. And then that was my first European Commission interaction where I got my Marie Curie Fellowship. So that's when I moved to UK. And from then on, I have stayed in UK. So my journey has been after Marie Curie Fellowship. So I got a couple more fellowships to start my independent career. From Leverhulme Trust and Kathleen Ulrich and Royal Society. These are all UK-based charities, so which give fellowships. So after this, I have already started my independent group. So that's where I applied ERC research grant in about 2019. 2018 I applied, and 2019 I got it. So I had 2 maternity breaks in between, which again is a thing I would like to highlight. So ERC starting grant, you have timeline between 2 years to 7 years post PhD. So if you have had a career break for some reason, it could be any reason. So maternity break or paternity break, they do consider and give you the time consideration considering the break. Of course, I was within 7 years, so I didn't really had to claim this one, but this is something one can keep in mind. So it can be beyond 7 years if you had a career break. So I applied in 2018, which was 6 years after PhD, which was almost like the limit if I don't consider the career break. So 7 years is where, so mine is the ERC starting grant. So 7 years is the limit. And so this is a brief timeline. The notification came in my time, so it can change from year to year. So I'm just telling about my timeline. So it was in March, the notification, and so the notification for my interview. That means I applied in 2018, and I was notified in March that, okay, you have cleared your step 1. So then I was called for the interview. So I was given 8 weeks to prepare for the interview, which is very nice. So sometimes, you get very less time for preparing for interview. So here you get about 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks for preparing for interview. So my interview was in June, and it was in person. So I know like ERC has been doing Zoom interviews or, online interviews for the past year. But mine was before the pandemic. So it was June in Brussels. And it was a 15-minute, it was 10 minutes of my talk and then 20 minutes of questions. So I got the results immediately, almost in a month. So July 2019, I was informed, but officially the news and ERC grant celebrations were all in September. So my real ERC timelines, I said I applied in October 2018, right? So there is always a thought behind before you apply a big grant. So you can, which you consider like a big grant for your career, So I started actually thinking about applying in 2017, that is 1 year before. But I was kind of afraid of the outcome, because if you fail in the step 1, which earlier it was all explained by David. So basically, if you fail in the first step, that means you are not called for the interview. Then you will be banned from applying for 2 years. So because I was in 5-year post PhD, I didn't want to really take risk. So that until I had like confidence of a good idea, I didn't apply. But finally I took the risk in the 6th year and applied. So that this is something one has to really think about, whether it is the right time to apply because of the time window that you can apply. But if you are sure that it is the idea of yours is challenging and high risk, and you are you are the right person to do it, and you can evidence that you are the right person to do it. So there's no better time than now. So that's when you can really go for it and apply. So the main criteria for the ERC grants, as already emphasized, is science and you. It's by individual investigator, but you can have lots of collaborators. That's allowed, but it's investigator driven, and it enables building a team of postdocs, PhD students. And it is another important thing about ERC is it's not restricted to the host university. Of course, the host university would help you, and is also important, which I will discuss later. Is also important in a way, but it's not restricted to the host university. It is mainly for you. The grant is for you. So if you move during the 5 years of your ERC grant, suppose I take up a position somewhere else, as long as the university or the institution that I'm moving to is within the European associated partner country, so the grant moves with you. So that's the advantage with the ERC, and it also enables rapid recognition. It's a prestigious grant. Yeah. So I said it's you and science. So about the point you. So it's there is a section in the proposal which I will hope to go through it within the time I'm given. So basically leadership in research. Yeah. So you can highlight your potential because it's a starting grant. Of course, if it's consolidated and advanced grade grant, maybe it's a different criteria which you can go through. So with the starting grant, you have to highlight your potential to become a research leader in your field in the coming years. So this is where you have some already laid steps towards the, your research leadership in particular area of research. So there is also a section of track record and funding. So I built with very small grants. I had my track record was built with like really small grants, like small equipment grants and small collaboration grants. That's how I started, and that all helped, I think, for my track record. So I started very small, and that's completely, absolutely all right to start with. So I had fellowship grants and some collaboration grants, exchange grants. So all that shows that you are actively pursuing your research and funding. So publications again are your certain strength and expertise. So I think mainly the expertise, the area that you are proposing the research on, how well you are an expert. So this is the most thing that speaks to the strength of your proposal. So you have to evidence that you are the right person to do it. So you can say, for instance, I have already established this techniques, and which will be useful for the proposed problems. So obviously it doesn't have to be the continuation of what you have already done. It has to be a high risk, high gain proposal, but at the same time, it should not be such that there should be no question that you cannot do it. It should be evident that you are the person to do it. So about the proposal, about you, we spoke briefly about the science. So main criteria, as already I think discussed, is it has to be high risk, and it is not an incremental proposal that would go through the most of the proposals are rejected in the first stage. So the selection of the proposals in the first stage is very, very small amount. So any ideas which look incremental are like expedition of various things. So if your proposal looks like expedition of various things, it would most likely don't cross the stage of first stage. So when you so your proposal should be like something which you have an idea about, and it's something which when delivered, it can be high risk. There is an element of risk, but which when delivered has a very high outcome, and it would change the something in that research field. Yeah. So that I think the vision of 5 to 10 years is something which you want to reflect on in the proposal. So first things first is like study the guidelines. It can change every year, and download the templates to get an idea of what the proposal looks like. And importantly, choose your panel. There are all information about panels. How many panels are there for each every science, like social sciences and physical sciences and life sciences. So give a thought on which panel you would like to choose, because these are the scientists who would finally decide on your proposal. So you would like to be on the panel where they would most appreciate and understand your science. So I gave a good thought on it, and I finally chose condensed matter. P3 was my panel. So once you start writing the proposal, there are 2 sections to it, B1 and B2. So give definitely plenty of time. This is a very, this is a prestigious grant which would give you plenty of money to build a team. So so there is always this question of which part should I write, B1 or B2. B2 is the longer part, which is about 15 pages. B1 is 5 pages. So B1 is kind of a summary of your B2. So I wrote B2 first, and then I condensed it to B1. But B1 is very important because it is the one which is sent to the reviewers in the first stage. So it decides whether you go to the second step or not. So it is equally important. Even if you write an excellent B2, maybe you are not, nobody's going to read the B2, because if you're not selected for the first stage, then it is outright rejected. So everybody spoke about 50%. So this is your time commitment, how much time you're going to spend in the EU country executing this research. So minimum is 50%, but you can also put higher. So your salary also can be claimed from this grant, apart from the grant the team members. So this is where the 50% means, like you can claim your salary and also the team member salary. So the host organization, we spoke a little bit. So it's beneficial, although it is not a part of the evaluation. I'd say it is beneficial to look for the host who have already some experience in supporting an ERC grant. Because an ERC grant, there is also some paperwork, admin paperwork later on when you have 18-month period reporting, or there are periodic reporting as well. And also it's a huge money. So it's better to have a host who can manage, who has a very good experience in managing large grants. Suppose the host that I'm working with is the University of Manchester. They have huge experience in managing European Commission grants, and they have over 60 ERCs actively running, 60 ERC grants. So this is something you can think of, like if the place has experience in managing large grants, they will give you the research admin support. Yeah, so this is something you can bear in mind. Yeah, so how do you evidence your outstanding knowledge in the scientific field? So this is based on where you place your research idea in the field. So this was my introduction figure. So where I would talk about what kind of general things are there out, in the field. So that's one way I could do it, but there may be many ways to do this. And although it is 15 pages, on 5 pages, it is definitely, the space is really precious. So you can use as many pictures, and preliminary data is encouraged. And justifying your finances, resources is all quite important. Samrat, please feel free to tell me if I'm running over the time. I've put a lot of slides, but I can also use them for questions. So please feel free to stop me if I'm running over the time.
Yeah, I think we can still take another couple of minutes, and okay, I think sure. Because it's very interesting for the audience also to hear, the experience from someone who cracked the grant, and it's perfectly fine.
Great, thanks, Amrit. So coming to part B1, I said 5 pages of your research proposal itself. Apart from that, the CV of you, it's a very brief CV. You don't have space to put all your publications. So you will put maximum 5 publications which are without your PhD supervisor. That's all is allowed in this. And funding track record. So as I said, like I started from very small grants, but that was still very beneficial. And yeah, so that's all. So it's totally 9 pages in terms of part B1. So this is what goes for your initial evaluation, and that would decide whether you will be allowed next time to apply for an ERC grant, or you would be not allowed for 2 more years. So this, once you cross this stage, you go to the interview. So coming to B2, it is about 15 pages, but there is a clear guideline of how to write it, which is very beautiful. So it's basically, you don't have to fill up pages of 15 with some, only research. It has very clear indicated sections what you have to fill up. And you need to have details. This was my work plan and how I would execute the project in 5 years, a brief description of it. So you need to really think about the project management. The Gantt chart should evidence it. What do you do? Where do you, which work packages you do? What do your team members do? So you should have really thought out your 5-year proposal. So it has to have a clear logic of what follows what, and in case of risk, okay, if this work package fails, what is your alternative? So what kind of plan do you have? So show your original idea, but also at the same time show your details of your management. So coming to evaluation, there was a brief discussion again on the evaluation. So on an average, I would say your proposal might get 5 to 9 reviewers. Mine was 13 reviewers. So I received them after all the announcements were done. So it was about 13 reviewers, and I was really surprised that there were so many reviewers. But I think it's on an average, you may get 5 to 9 reviewers. So this is how the evaluation criteria is, what as a reviewer they would get. So when I also reviewed the grants, this is what I got, the form to fill up. So you are given a grant and you are given this form. So the reviewers have to identify the criteria. One is research project. Basically, they have to comment on what is the groundbreaking nature, what is the scientific approach like. So basically, you have to feed in the reviewer with these points. So these, just to highlight some of my comments, they said like, they could clearly identify, what is the high risk, what is the high gain in this proposal. And they can even highlight sometimes the negative aspects of your proposal. This was another reviewer. So the reviewers would tell what can be asked to the member in the interview for the applicant. So prepare for the most tough questions you may anticipate. So definitely the reviewers are going to see it. So, and they also criteria 2 is investigator, that is you. So they would have these only 3 boxes where they can click and then they will write about each point. So that's all. The evaluation is very simple. So they have to just comment on 2 criteria. That's why it is all about you and the proposal. So once you are clearing the first stage, your chances of getting the grant increase enormously. So interview is about 10 minutes and 15 minutes of question and answers. I did several mock interviews, and this is where the host organization was again very helpful. They arranged my mock interviews with other expert members and non-experts, because the panel in the interview also will have both experts and non-experts, general scientists. So I do mock interviews just to prepare myself. And I was in Brussels the day before the interview, and the panel members were extremely polite. So if you see any question from a non-expert or an expert, even though you think it's not relevant, you still can answer it. So what I had was an elevator pitch. I started with an elevator pitch to land, what my proposal is about. And then it was all about explaining your work packages. So my summary of advice is take time for writing, and don't write long introductions, get to the point. Even as an evaluator, I would be looking for what is the science, So generally this is how if you are the evaluator, so just put yourself in the evaluator's shoes, just phrase your intro to be landing to the point quickly. And have a good story to tell. So don't patch from your, suppose I did this initially and it was very evident, it's not a story. So if you just patch from various grants and recycle them, they will look patchy. So inputs from colleagues, and just send over to your friends and who can review it and tell you. That was very helpful in my case. So that's the final slide. So basically, choose the right timing, have your idea clear, focused writing, and just get lots of feedback. That's what I think will help you get an ERC grant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Radha, for an excellent testimonial. I think you covered all the aspects, how your journey to applying to the evaluation process, also the interview process, and now also at the end, you gave really an executive summary of very important advice to potential candidates. So really very grateful to you. Thank you so much for that. And
Thank you, Samrat.
You will stay with us now for
Yes.
the Q&A session together with Benjamin, and let's just jump straight into it. And let me also say that while you were presenting, both of you, we got a lot of questions coming in, and Vivek Dham, my colleague at the EU delegation, was also very helpful in trying to answer some of them. Please apologize to your audience if we don't manage to answer all your questions, but you can always send an email and we will definitely try to help you and forward them to the right address. Yes, there are questions, of course, about the eligibility and also the nationality. Like we have, for instance, a Dutch citizen who's working in Thailand. Would he be eligible to apply for the ERC? And I think you made it very clear, Benjamin, that it's open to all nationalities, but maybe just as a reminder about who can apply for this grants.
Yeah, thank you. That's an easy question. Anyone can apply. I mean, from any part of the world, based on in any part in Greenland, if you want, or in Antarctica, there's no issue. And then we don't have any limitation for any nationality. So you can be, So not an issue of eligibility at all. Just
perfect. I'm starting with the light questions, and then I will move to the more complex and difficult ones to warm you up, guys. So it's an individual application, right? It's not a team who has to apply for it. I think, and you have always, both of you also have highlighted that, right? But there is also something, a grant for teams, right? The Synergy grant, if I'm not wrong.
Indeed.
Maybe you could...
So only Synergy grant is actually a team of 2 to 4 researchers. And this is like require really as a team. So it's like a really common project. So this one is, yes, it's really a team project, but for the other one is have to be a principal investigator. But as Radha said, also for our own grant, sometimes you already, when you are a PI, a principal investigator, and you think about your research project, you already have your team member in head, thinking about them and how they could contribute to your project. And I don't know if it was the case, Radha, for you.
Yes, Benjamin. So indeed, I have named collaborators. So I've even asked money for the collaborators, students and postdocs to come in to work here, and my team members to go to their labs. So this is all allowed to budget in. And so even suppose you want to do a workshop, gathering all the researchers, for instance, working in your field, you can also budget that. So ERC is quite flexible in whatever you want to do to achieve your goals. I think that's the fantastic part, Benjamin.
Yeah.
I see one question, maybe if I can ask Samrit. So there's one person who mentioned, I did not get what Radha said. If someone applies and fails, there is a punishment period where one cannot apply for that.
Yes, I was coming to that at a later stage, but please go ahead if you can answer that.
Benjamin, I think you can also help me with this. As far as I know, so if one gets B or C, depending on in the first stage, if you get an A and you're called for interview, there's no issue. But if you get a B, you cannot apply for 1 year.
Yeah, well, yeah, indeed. But I would not label it as a punishment, actually. but I understand it can be perceived like that. The idea behind it is that if you have a B, so you have to wait 1 year. You are not able to apply for 1 year. And if you got a C, 2 years. Why is that? Is because otherwise, in the past, at the early stage of ERC, it was not the case. But then we used to have many applications exactly the same, with no change, and they would apply and apply and apply. And if you look at the number of proposals we have, I mean, it was becoming not manageable. So the idea behind is actually that if you got a C, it means that you really need to think again about your project, and this requires time. It's not like just you sit down one night, you open a bottle of wine, and then you rewrite a few paragraphs. It's not like that, So you really have to go back to to your library, to your field, to your peers, and think again, and how can I make it more feasible, or can I make it more original, and maybe I should change completely topic or field, and this requires 2 years. And then okay, I understand for you wanted to try with starting grant. So if you waited 2 years, it means that you became consolidator grants. But I mean, it's the same success rate. So I mean, it's no issue to go to consolidator grants. It's just that you have to wait 2 years to work on your proposal or write a completely new one. So please, it's not a punishment.
So that's excellent. I think that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thank you for that, and thank you for picking up that question rather than spotting that already. Another question, which is a recurring question, was what if the researcher is not working affiliated to a university, but working in a private sector for a startup or NGO, or even private company? Are they eligible to apply also for ERC grants?
They can apply, indeed. They can apply. There's no such limitation based on this, but you need to have an official letter of at what we call a host institution. You need to have this letter, but it's not limited to university at the time you apply. And we do have some. I mean, when you got a grant, after you have a host institution, so this is your employer, and then you can have also some additional beneficiaries. Even the institution that you are currently working in, or a startup or something else. This is not, but you have to see. I mean, it's complicated question, because we have to see each legal entity. But on the basis, generally speaking, it's not a limitation.
Okay, so that's good, and one has to just kind of give the evidence about one's scientific record, and have, of course, the host institution there to for the application. Staying with the host institution, Benjamin, there's another question about the at least minimum 50% one has to conduct the research at the host institution, right? That's one of the, and along with that, the question was regarding the budget. Would the other 50% then go to the home institution, or how is that allocated? Like, does the entire amount of funding go to the host institution?
It depends how the grant is done, but it depends. I don't know. I have to see the detail of one particular project. I mean, that could be, again, that could be some additional beneficiary that receives some money to pay the salary of the PI if he's working on a project but not based in Europe. So it happened to me. I mean, like I was working with a project yesterday in that case with Egypt, and so it's a project with Cambridge, and then the PI is both teaching at Cambridge and in the Caire, and then Cairo, sorry, in Cairo. And then, so the grant is paying the time of the PI, the salary, correctly, of the PI, of the principal investigator, while he's researching on his project in Egypt. And obviously, it's a project about protest and, Arab Spring. So definitely, you need to spend some time there to investigate. So this time is covered by the grant and is paid to the additional beneficiary, which is Cairo University.
Okay.
So it is possible, but it depends on each project. What you find.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Another. Sorry,
maybe,
Radha, would you
maybe if I just can add. So I think there was also a question on, is UK still eligible? So we, even despite Brexit, UK universities are still eligible. So I think the 50% aspect is basically your salary. So I mean, if you want to become an employee of the university, so then you can have this negotiation before you apply for the grant. So you can talk to the head of the department, ask them whether the deal is that you become an employee and you be, after the grant. So these all negotiation is on the researcher side, what benefits them. I think what ERC cares is they pay 50% of your salary. So for the time that you spend. So if you're doing part-time with the university, that means like you have the other 50% somewhere else, then you are paid for that salary. But your team members can be 100%. Again, this is something you need to negotiate with the department, whether as a part-time employee, they would allow you to have the students. So it may depend on university to university, but ERC wouldn't mind, I mean, to pay 100% salary for the team members, even though you are 50%. So I am 50% now because of my other commitments. Because I have a fellowship, so I'm giving only 50%. Actually, I'm giving 60%. So my 60% salary can come from the ERC, but my team members are 100%. So this is something you can negotiate with the department that you are applying with. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Radha, for this intervention on that question, which I think, of course, is very important. And I will take a couple of more questions before we go to the next presenter. There was also a question regarding the advanced grant, Benjamin. Here it's saying that one needs to have an excellent scientific record. And in our case, the researcher got his PhD 12 years ago, but he's not that senior, he or she's saying. Would that be a disadvantage to him? Like, where would he fall? Would he then be eligible for that, to apply for the advanced grant, or should he go for the consolidated grant? Like, what would you recommend?
Well, if he's 12 years, he cannot choose this. He will have to be for advanced grant.
Right.
I mean, for 7 to 12 included. So depending on what date exactly. But yes, I mean, they're all quite competitive, but you cannot self-assess yourself as not senior enough. What matters is really the research, your ID, your methodology, or when you will describe it in a proposal, because there are some excellent scientists who don't get through just because they didn't present it correctly. So I mean, it's more all about the work you envision and how you organize it, and even your paper, as I said, and I have to stress on that that. It doesn't matter if you didn't publish. I mean, for me, I'm dealing with economists, and most of the time they are focused on Econometrica or on the American Economic Review and all the top 5. But it doesn't really matter when you are in a panel. People, they don't really, of course, they know this journal, and of course they will discuss and they will look at this paper, but they will look at also the paper that are not published in so high impact or high level publication. So So what matters is really the content. And I saw a question also, maybe I can jump in there, about if I did a what we call a working paper. So I did a paper, but it's not published yet. It's in process of being submitted and reviewed and so on. So this, if it's in the open access database, you can very well include it in your application, and it's well encouraged because this is most original work at the time of writing a proposal is in a working paper. So of course you can include it, and the panel will probably look at it. So I mean, yes, indeed, you can. It's not like can I include my working paper? You should include your working paper. On contrary.
Maybe if I can add a bit. So it's not just eligibility and advanced grant, whether you have a group or not. Probably if you can, you are going to be competing with the people who have already established, so that's obviously there is a competition with people who are already well known in their field. But if you can evidence that you are the person to do this groundbreaking idea, I think there's nothing stopping you from applying that. So, and maybe I can also jump into another bit where I saw a question. I think I saw a question on industry collaboration. So SMEs also are eligible to be a host. If I'm not wrong, Benjamin, maybe you can correct me on that. SMEs are also allowed to be a host, isn't it?
On Davide, if you want contradict me, but I think yes, indeed they can. Yes, I mean I have to say it doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
But I almost never see it actually. But I think on a paper, on principle, it's not forbidden. And on the contrary, I do see in other fields some startup as additional beneficiary or partner of the project. This I do.
Yeah.
What happened most of time is like people are in a university or in a lab, and then after the grant, they open a startup. It's more in that way.
Yes. Yeah, that's our comment.
Thanks, Benjamin. I think another point is like you can also apply with the university and have an industrial collaborator. That is also very well encouraged. So if you want to propose some secondments, that is, you want to work with industrial collaborator visits or some amount of work to be done there by yourself, I think that is all very well allowed. Maybe if I can also answer about somebody asking whether it is flexible to be in the ERC because if you cannot travel. So it happened with my case as well. Right after I started my grant, the pandemic hit. So I have just recruited my one postdoc and then the pandemic hit. So I couldn't recruit for some time, students, and recruitment was all stopped within University of Manchester. So it was nothing to do with me. It's just the university doesn't allow any recruitment. So then I wrote to my project officer, see, I cannot do this as planned. As long as you have an alternative to propose, as long as it doesn't, inhibit your project, ERC project officers are quite easy to reach and talk to, and that's again one advantage of ERC. So it will be quite flexible. So I recruited instead of PhD students, postdocs. So and that was allowed. So that was not originally budgeted in the ERC. So that's something. I think it's quite flexible. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll take one more last question, and then we have to move on because of the time limit we have. But thank you so much, both of you. I think very engaging, and more questions are pouring in, and we will try to, of course, collect those questions at the end and see that we can really help you to answer them together also with our colleagues at the EU delegation. So what last question I would like to know is that, because both of you mentioned that, Benjamin, you mentioned that the host institution is not a criteria when it comes to the evaluation of the proposal. And at the same time, Radha said that one should look for a host institution which has already a good track record of with experience with the ERC and a good support office. So maybe both of you could a bit, tell us about this now again, about the importance of the host institution.
I think we are not talking exactly about the same thing, because I was talking about the selection. And indeed, I must insist, host institutions are not a criteria to select or to judge a proposal, not at all. I think what Radha was talking about is that practically it's probably more simple for your project to be in an institution who know how to deal with kind of bureaucracy, let's say the word, And I have to say, and to insist on that, if you do have a grant, it's quite easy to find an institution actually, because most of those institutions, they want to have grantees because it brings visibility to them, and they have some statistics to say how many ERC grant I have, and it brings extra money to the university. So 1.5 million or 2.5 million or 3.5 million. I mean, it's a big amount of money. So usually you are more on a negotiation table, you are more at your ease, I think, when you have an ERC grant than when you don't have one. So I don't think it's I mean, I don't want to speak in place of Radha, but I think it's what she meant. I'm not sure.
I completely agree with you, Benjamin. So it's not a part of the evaluation criteria. So what I meant was, if you want to secure, like, if you want to make, this is a large grant, right? So if you have an institution who knows how to handle it, it will enable your life, being simpler for next 5 years. But of course, if you have differences with the host institution, you can always move. If you think it's not going smooth, you can always move. You move, the grant moves. So that's as simple as that. So it's not very related or linked to the institution in any way. That's why it is not, I think, part of the evaluation criteria, because it is all about you and your idea. So yeah, it's as simple as that. So it just helps you to start, because if you're applying for the first time, you have no idea how this works. So it just helps.
True.
Sarah,
True.
I just complement a little bit, just that quickly.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So, and it's linked to the question before also. What I wanted to say is that also, I mean, first I have to say that in all my projects that I'm watching, monitoring, because we don't only organize the evaluation. After we follow the project all their life, for their lifetime, and then I have a portfolio of many different projects, and then I have many projects from the same institution, like the big one, famous one, but I have also many projects from institutions that I've never won before. So I mean, so from my experience, I mean, we have all kind of diversity of institutions. So this is the first thing I wanted to say. And what I wanted to add with the previous intervention from Radha is that in ERC, and I want to highlight this, and this will be my final word, we are here for scientists and we are here for frontier science. So it's our only purpose is to facilitate the work, the production of better ideas, new ideas. And so we are not in the compliance mode way of thinking. If somebody have an issue with COVID, and obviously everybody had some issue with COVID, and they could not recruit someone, or they could not make a fit trip, we will not be there to punish them, or we will be there to try to find a solution so the project can, flourish. That would be my final word, except if you have other questions.
Thank you so much. I think that was very good to conclude this Q&A session, that you really want, ERC is interested in excellent creative and frontier research, and has also a lot of flexibility. And I think that's really the great thing about the ERC, one of the great things. And let's move on to our next speaker now. And thanks again, Benjamin and Radha, for a very engaging presentation Q&A. Davide.
It's a pleasure to take part. Thank you.
Thank you. So Davide Innocenti, I already introduced him in the beginning. He will now talk about the possibilities for researchers from India and ASEAN, particularly because this is our audience today, to join existing ERC projects through the so-called implementing arrangements. Right, Davide, you will tell us now about this opportunity.
Yes, thank you very much. And Samrat, I will share the slides with you. And here we are. Okay. You should be able to see the slides, yes. Okay.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, so good morning, first of all, and as well from Brussels, and as well good afternoon and good evening for the most of you. I would like to thank the EUR-Access colleagues for the chance to present this European Research Council program fostering international participation. And above all, I would like to thank you for joining us numerous and to be still connected at this time. So this is what is an implementing arrangement? This is an opportunity to join an ERC team. This is an international, these are actually international agreements promoting this opportunity to support scientists from third countries and to temporarily join an ERC principal investigator team. So far, we have 16 implementing arrangements that have been signed with funding agency from 12 different countries. Of course, new agreements are signed every year. For example, last year, we had a Japan agency for medical research and development, and the Indian Council of Science, of Social Science Research that joined the program. More than 450 international researchers visited the ERC project since 2012 under the framework of these implementing arrangements. And every year, we as agency, as executive agency of the ERC, launch an internal call for expression of interest to ask ERC PIs their availability to temporarily host an international research. Next call will be launched on November 2021. As you can see, this is the list of all the signed implementing arrangement. There are 16 third country funding bodies already participating. As you can see, one agreement has been signed with the National Research Foundation of Singapore in 2019. And the 2 agreements have been signed already with Indian funding bodies, the Scientific and Engineering Research Board in 2017, and the Indian Social Sciences Research Council last year, as already mentioned you before. But how does it work? I will quickly guide you through the process. Every year, we, as executive agency of the ERC, launch a call for expression of interest, as I told you, contacting all the eligible ERC PIs. Then they have 1 month to express their interest to participate. After the call is closed, we will gather all the names of these PIs, and we will send a list to the interested PI to the third country funding agencies. At this stage, the ball is within the third country based funding agency and the researchers. The agency will launch their own internal call for expression of interest with different modalities, of course, and they will inform all the eligible researchers that as applicant, they have to contact an ERC principal investigator to seek an agreement on a possible research visit. This is the first step. After that, of course, the ERC PI has to accept or not the visit, and if accepted, provide a letter of support, and as well the host institution of the ERC principal investigator has to provide a letter of support to the visit. Then the funding agencies will evaluate the proposal and funds the successful one. If funded, the visiting scientists will plan and execute, of course, the research visits in agreement with the PI. They will have to decide the right moment, the modalities of the visit, and so on. There are few participation process and conditions which are common to all the agreements, and I will quickly present you these fundamental processes and conditions. First of all, the ERC does not intervene in the communication between ERC PIs and new potential visitor, and of course does not intervene in the selection process, which is completely independent and is actually done by each non-European funding agency. The visit should take place within the lifetime of the ERC project, of course, and it is expected that the scientific collaboration will occur in a similar area of scientific interest. Finally, the visiting researcher can be incorporated in a research team of the ERC principal investigator for the duration of the visit. So I just present you the general structure and the processes and some of the main conditions of this program. Now I want to update you about the state of the play of the program. So first of all, how the ERC principal investigator received this kind of initiative. As you can see, in 2012, we have the US National Science Foundation that signed the first agreement, and hundreds of ERC principal investigators immediately welcomed the program. Since then, every year with new agencies joining the program, thousands of ERCPI expressed their interest to host researchers funded by third country funding bodies. Numbers grew in the last years and exceeded an average of 600 for 2020. This means that the program is concretely providing to researchers funded by third countries' research institution the opportunity to pursue a scientific collaboration with top scientists funded by the ERC. But how this translates in terms of accomplished research visits. Since 2012, almost 500 scientists visited an ERC project through this framework, the framework of this program. For single long-term or multiple short-term visits, which will sum up to a maximum of 12 months. Number of visits grow up to a maximum of 100 for 2018 call for expression of interest, our internal call for expression of interest. And in the last couple of years, despite all the difficulties we have to, all the funding agencies, all the countries have to actually face due to the pandemics, results are still encouraging. You have also to take into account that many of these funding bodies suspended or postponed their call because of mobility constraint. More in detail, I would like to give you an idea about the details of these visits and to better understand the nature of this scientific collaboration. To do that, I will show you the number of visits per destination country, visiting researcher and scientific domain, of course. As I mentioned before, it's important the collaboration have to occur in the same area of scientific interest. And from this point of view, you can notice that all scientific domains are represented for half of the 24 countries which already have at least one visiting researcher. In general, almost 60% of the researchers visited a project in physical science and engineering domain. Almost 30% visited a project in life science domain, and around 13% visited a social science and humanities domain project. We also have a synergy, a researcher visiting a synergy project. In conclusion, a vast and comprehensive collaborative offer is actually already translated in practical terms in hundreds of research collaboration and involved hundreds of top researchers of every level of experience in Europe and across the world. So I will leave you mentioning again that we will launch a new call for expression of interest in November 2021. And later on, this means that the funding agency will launch their own internal call for expression of interest. Meanwhile, we as an agency will provide you full support and information if you are interested into this exciting opportunity of scientific collaboration. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you so much, Davide, for outlining this excellent opportunity for international researchers to join existing ERC teams, and also congratulations to you and your team for getting this implementing agreements in place. And we know also from here in India that it really takes a lot of hard work, and I see Tanya also nodding on that. And I would also give Tanya the mic in a second to talk a bit about the Indian experience here with implementing agreements and how we can really work to promote this great opportunity more. But there was a question which we already got beforehand, the webinar regarding the implementing arrangements, Davide, and it was about like what are the selection criteria for, like, some countries there are arrangements, some countries in Asia, South Asia, they are not, and are there like strategic criteria, or is it just more bureaucratic processes which make it in some countries easier or some not, or is it the scientific development index or whatever? Can you maybe tell us why some countries the ERC has in Asia and why not?
I will briefly provide you some context. The idea is that each of these agreements is actually the result of a negotiation between the Commission, our DG, and typically ministries of the involved countries. This means that after a negotiation about this agreement, an agreement has to be signed between, in the end, the ERC and the specific funding body which is interested to participate to implementing arrangement program. This means that each of these funding body will have the opportunity to set up their own eligibility criteria. And typically what is happening is that these criteria are linked to grants or awards or affiliation to the specific funding bodies. So this is just to provide you an idea of how does it work. In principle, there are no limits in terms of nationality, but the eligibility are based on the fact that, I don't know, you are a grant holder of the specific for that funding body, you are awarded with some kind of prize, you are doing some research in affiliation with that funding body.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that made it very clear the context of it, and I think it's also a good moment to bring Tanya into the discussion because Tanya has been also working, on those arrangements, and just recently, I think last year was arrangement with the Indian Council of Social Science Research, right, Tanya?
Yes, hello Samrat, and hello Davide. Nice e-meeting, Benjamin and everybody. Yes, I've been listening. I would also like first to say something overall. It's always a pleasure also, Samrat, to work with you. You are really conducting these meetings in an interactive way, and we have this new tool now of this min-meter and mind-meter. And so I participated, but I thought I shouldn't, because who am I? I mean, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher and all that. But anyway, one of the questions was, how much do you know about ERC? And I have to admit, I said moderate knowledge, because, but after the presentation of Benjamin, I would like to say that I think that I have really understood all the different schemes, the spirit and the procedures. So I said in the beginning, take advantage, and we have many potential applicants of this session, and it's I've had many. It was an extremely good session, and of course very well complemented by our testimony, Radha Boya. Also, you could see that you've gone through the motions, and that's emotional, and I wanted to share that with you. And then, of course, we always go further and always take opportunities to promote more cooperation between Europe and India. One thing I also always like is that we present the European Research Council as a pillar of Horizon Europe. And within Horizon Europe, there are other opportunities. And again, Radha was a nice example of that in her journey. You have also been a Marie Skłodowska-Curie fellow. So again, that is also a scheme that together with Samrat, we promote. So also that, and then I also seen questions in general about collaboration. So it's always good to promote the cooperation on research and innovation with the world. Now, coming to finally why you asked me to intervene, yes, I'm very pleased that we have that additional tool with India implementing arrangement. This is again very specific to the ERC, to the whole design and the spirit of the ERC, which also Radha explained well, the team spirit, working in a team, and it's very competitive to crack it. But then you, without being an ERC grantee, you have a possibility to join a team. And that is an additional opportunity that the ERC has designed. And it's doing that not with everybody. You've seen there's a number of countries. And I'm here in India, Science Counselor, and I'm very happy that we have one also now on social sciences and humanities with the Indian Council of Social Sciences and Research, which we concluded last year. So that's why that part or possibility is not yet reflected in the statistics because we just started. But India is India, isn't it? So we have this nice agreement with India, and there are plenty of good scientists, but sometimes your funders, your organizations, your institutions are not totally doing justice to all your potential. So through you, I would also, if any SERB grantees are connected today to this event, or ICSSR grantees, go also knock at the door of your Indian institution and ask them to be proactive on using that additional opportunity of being part for a short duration to join an ERC team wherever they are in Europe. That would really be, because it's fantastic that we have concluded the agreement and we spend lots of time on it, and Davide is doing a lot of receiving all these expression of interest, then transmitting them, then we are transmitting them. We as in Europe, whether it's David in Brussels or in India, we cannot be the driving seat of that. We are just opening our doors, having an additional tool. Also, I hope that rather you will take advantage of it and express an interest of having an Indian scientist in your team, but that's all that we can do. And we can only hope that then our agencies will materialize that opportunity. So maybe some colleagues or some self-grantees are here, knock at their door and say that we have that agreement. It doesn't cost much money, and it's as I said, it's an additional tool, but opens so much your spectrum of doing research with an ERC team. So awareness raising is step one. That is what we have done today, and that's all I can say. And I also see that David is nodding. So it's a bit of a special situation with India compared to other countries. I'm not happy with the implementation of the implementation arrangement, but we together we can work on it and hope that also the Indian grantees will take advantage of that option, because statistically there's a lot of ERC teams in Europe are expressing interest towards India because they know that there is a pocket of excellence here. And it's not brain drain, it's a brain circulation. So look at it, take and knock at the door of your funders to see if they wouldn't like to implement that implementing arrangement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And I would like to, on behalf of your Access Worldwide, also return the thanks to you and also your team. It's always been great, that we work together and to promote and create awareness about the different programs for researchers under Horizon Europe. And today I'm very, very proud that we had such an excellent team together with our colleagues in Brussels, with Radha, our ERC grantee, and also my colleagues at Your Access ASEAN, Jenny, and Susanne, who have been also behind the scenes, been working to make this event happen. So I really thanks to all the presenters and speakers, and mostly thank you to you, dear audience, that you came in such high numbers, and it shows that the ERC is a very attractive, has very attractive grants and schemes for you, and we're really hoping to see a lot of more applications coming on the desks of Benjamin, Davide, and their colleagues from the ASEAN countries and from India. And with that, I would like to conclude this webinar and just give you a slight outlook of next week for those who are interested in the synergy grants. The EU delegation here in India, in cooperation with the ERC and with the assistance of EURAXESS, we are organizing information session on that synergy grant. Remember that grant where you can work as a team, apply as a team for realizing your dream project. That will be next week on 6th of October. Already mentioned it in the chat. You can find the information on the EU delegation's website and also on the EURAXESS India website. Okay, I hope to see many of you also in the next week at this information session. So thank you, namaste. Merci beaucoup, grazie mille, grazie in all languages, and see you hopefully very soon, and take care. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Davide. Merci, Benjamin.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, nice meeting
Bye.
you. Very good.
Bye,
Very
Jenny.
good.
Bye.
Now
Bye, Tanya.
we had more than 300 people participating. Very, very good. Very, very good.
Yeah.
So
Great effort. Thank you. Bye.
okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Samrat, Elida. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jenny. Nice. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.